What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another edition of the Anabolic Outpost. Today I will return reviewing another recipe, and just like the last one, it is coming from Greg Doucette's cookbook. And this one has actually been out for quite some time. I've just never gotten around to trying it, and it is known as apple goop. It's marketed as a voluminous fall treat. That was actually one of the first recipes that Greg Doucette got popular off of when he was first starting out on YouTube. I've honestly just never gotten around to trying it, and I figured I might as well just make a video on it, as it's supposedly commonly messed up, and I'll probably mess it up myself, but either way, you'll at least get my first impressions and thoughts on the recipe. Overall, it seems pretty simple to make with some simple ingredients, and before I make it, I just want to cover the ingredients that he is calling for. The first ingredient are apples, and it doesn't specify which kind, so I guess these are what I'm going to go with here. Next up are oats. It wouldn't be a Greg Doucette recipe without xanthan gum. Your sweetener of choice, as always, I'm going to be going with sucralose. And lastly is cinnamon. Also, before I get into this recipe, I would like to mention the fact that I did go ahead and split this recipe in half. Although it does say that it's one serving, just looking at the ingredients here, I could already see that I do not want to consume 600 grams of apples, as I'll already be eating 2 whole apples, even splitting the recipe in half. I thought that was a little bit odd, but I guess Greg is the king of volume after all. And he just said to cut these apples into bite-sized pieces, and you could see kind of how I'm going about it myself. I also didn't mention it in the original ingredients list, but you will need water for this recipe, and speaking of interesting ingredients, in the original recipe it calls for 1,000 grams of water, and I did split the recipe in half, but still adding 500 grams of water is insane. And like I said, I'm probably making it wrong, but you'll see in just a second here where I thought I messed up, and even in doing so I could see why there's so much volume with that amount of water. I just went ahead here and transferred the apple slices straight into the bowl, and in total you're going to need 280 grams. And I just decided to roll with it here, even though I was at 260, I wasn't about to slice into another apple. And once again, I might be reading this wrong with the way it's worded, but now we're going to mix in all of the ingredients except the water and the xanthan gum. I'm thinking potentially it allows the apples to marinate a bit, although like I said, I'm probably just reading it wrong with the weird way that it's worded. I'll go ahead and start off by sprinkling on the sweetener on top of the apples, and in total I'm going to add 4 grams. You could go ahead and do the conversion yourself. Like I have to do with all of Greg's recipes, it is kind of hard to do the conversion myself, and I might mess up on the sweetener aspect. But through all the recipes I've made by him, I've managed to get it pretty close. In the meantime, I went ahead and added on 1 gram of cinnamon on top of the apples. And I'm also going to go ahead and sprinkle 24 grams of oats on top of that as well. And honestly, I don't really know what I was expecting with this. I should have just made myself some apple cinnamon oatmeal. But once you add all the water and all the apples that are in there as well, it doesn't end up being oaty at all. And that's probably another aspect for me as well, because I love oats, and when I was first thinking about this recipe, I was thinking apple cinnamon oatmeal, and that was exactly what I was craving at the time. But unfortunately, it hadn't turned out how I hoped. So as you can see, I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to do here, and I'm just mixing around the apples, oats, cinnamon, and sweetener. Just hoping for the best here before I add all of that water. But before we do that, let me sprinkle on the xanthan gum, in total adding 3 grams of that. And here we go with the 500 grams of water. We've now got our pool full of apples complete, and I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a quick stir before we insert it into the microwave. And here we go again with another weird aspect of this recipe, but the total microwave time for the apple goop is 10 to 40 minutes, which for one is just an insane range in microwave time, and for two, I don't think I've ever microwaved something for 40 minutes in my life, and it kind of scares me to even think about doing that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in 5-minute increments and see what happens. And this is what the final product looks like right here. I ended up microwaving it for 20 minutes in total, and I probably should have gone longer than that because it's still pretty soupy here. But this stuff was practically boiling, and I really just wanted to get it out of the microwave and just try it. And hopefully I foreshadowed enough to not catch you off guard with this review, but I really did not like the apple goop very much. Yeah, it's got some good volume to it for the amount of calories that are in there, but with the amount of water from it, it really takes away from the flavor. And there really wasn't any strong apple flavor or sweetness at all in this. It was just kind of disappointing, and the worst part of all, which I did know going in to be fair, was that there isn't very much protein in this at all. So it kind of takes away from the theme of my channel, but I still wanted to upload this and review it for you guys. Because it is a popular recipe, and I know that there's a lot of hype behind it, and a lot of people do like it. And the big apple goop fan base will probably all be hating in my comments because I made this wrong and it ended up tasting terrible. But if I did do so, comment it down below and I'll be sure to experiment with this recipe again. And if I do come up with an updated version of this, I'll be sure to upload another video on my channel as well. Before I go, of course, sticking with the common theme of these reviews is giving a rating at the end of the review, and hopefully this is the lowest rating that I give in quite some time, but we're going to go ahead and give this a 5.4 out of 10. I do feel like that's more than fair, but if you do disagree with me and you like this recipe, I would like to hear your thoughts as well. Drop them down in the comment section below. And while you're there, like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. I appreciate all of the support. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next video.